Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooks Tannehill and today I'm going to show you how I made this neon and paint stroke custom tumbler. As always, all the products I use will be listed in the description below, and you may even find a coupon code or two that saves you some coin. Also, come join our exclusive Facebook group where you can take advantage of upcoming freebies and giveaways that you aren't going to want to miss. So without further hesitation, let's go ahead and get started. For this tutorial, you're going to see me switching between two cups because I actually had to start a second cup completely over from scratch because I forgot to film probably one of the most important parts of this tutorial. So you'll see there that I've already gotten one cup painted, but I'm going to show you how I started this cup. And what I'm doing here is I started with a fully prepped and sanded. This is a 15-ounce straight skinny from Parish Tumblers. Then I just sprayed it with alcohol, wiped it down. And then I grabbed bright white from Miss Lillian's No Wax Chalk paint, and I am just painting a nice, just base coat white for the neon colors that we will be adding to the cup. So I'm just going through adding as even of a coat of the white paint as possible. And the reason why I'm adding the white paint as a base is because this really allows for the neon colors to have some lights, just like some vibrancy, and those colors really pop with a white base underneath them. So I'm just taking my time adding a nice thin layer of the paints as evenly as possible. Then I'll take my heat gun, dry the coats in between each layer, I guess you could say, and then I will do two coats just to make sure that I've got a nice even base. You do not have to use this chalk paint. It was just raining and kind of a gloomy day outside, so I did this because I didn't want to have to go outside and spray paint, but you could just do one coat of spray paint and it would accomplish the same thing. Once that base layer is nice and dry, I'm going to grab my UV Neon Magic Fun paints from Miss Lillian's No Wax Chalk paint. And all I'm doing is I'm just painting a nice even stripe of the color. So I started with the neon pink, which you can see there, and that's called Fervent Fuschia. Then this purple is called Psychedelic Purple. And then I'm just gonna go and continue in with the different colors. So this green here is called Radioactive. And these colors are actually UV activated. So they will definitely glow underneath a black light. So that is why they are just so bright and so impactful. And I really liked that for the overall look of this cup. So I'm just doing again, little lines, and the kind of pizza slice at base that you see there does not have to be perfect because the opal mix that we are adding to the overall, this entire surface of the cup really hides that well. And it makes it look a lot better than the paint job that I actually gave it. After the Radioactive, you want to make sure that you clean the brushes off really nicely between coats. So I just have a cup of water right there. There's nothing extra in there. And I'm just using a cheap makeup brush from the dollar store. It's a Wet n Wild brush. It's like a little bit of an angle to it. So I think it really helps the paint go on nicely. And I had more control with the angle tip of it. So this color here is called Men at Work. And again, I'm just adding just a little bit of stripe. Then I came in with Zing, and then I finished it off with Wackadoodle. In case you were wondering what Wackadoodle is, it's this teal color that you're seeing right here. It is such a fun color, and it wasn't expected as to how well it would go with the other colors, but I really liked it, and it really pulled off the entire color scheme and brought everything together. Now, depending on what size cup you're doing this design on, you'll have, like with this cup specifically, I had two extra stripe placements that I could do. So I just chose to repeat the purple and then also the Zing, which is like the neon yellow that you see there. And I just thought that those were two nice colors that would complement the whole color scheme, but not overwhelm it, because I have a tendency to really gravitate towards more pinks, and I just didn't want to do that this time around. So I just came in, did another stripe, kind of that brush stroke look with the purple, and then finish it off with the yellow, let that dry, and then it was time to move into the next steps. So to apply the glitter to the cup, I am using glitter glue. You could use the epoxy method, you could use any other adhesive that you prefer. And I'm going to apply a pretty hefty coat just to make sure that I get really good adhesive for the glitter. I'm going to be using Wonder from Boujie Glitter Boutique. This is one of my favorite opal mixes that she offers. It has multiple cuts that just make it so beautiful and just glitters like nothing else. So I'm going to cover the entire surface of the cup, let that dry for about 2 hours, and then I'm going to seal it twice with Rust-Oleum clear coat spray paint. And then I came in with 2 coats of Artistry's 1-to-1 fast set to make sure that I had a really nice, good couple of layers over the glitter before we moved into sanding. Here you see I have my orbital sander, and it has a 120 grit sandpaper on it, and I am just focusing on that top rim because I messed up and my tumbler was not level when I put it on the turner. So I'm just holding my orbital in place, rocking the cup back and forth to knock down that top rim. And again, this wasn't horrible. A lot of people, like, you probably could have gotten away with it, but I'm just OCD about it and wanted to take care of it. So I'm just taking my time to make sure that I'm knocking down only that top rim, and then I'm moving in to the rest of the cup with an 80 grit sanding block. So the reason why I'm not using my orbital is because I really didn't need to this time on the rest of the surface of the cup. It was really, really smooth. I got excellent coverage. So I'm just doing this to knock down any pokey bits that might be sticking up, and it just needed barely any sanding. So what you can see there is I'm just using my fingers to find any of the pieces that might be sticking up. Then I'm coming in with a sanding block, knocking them down, and then I'm just moving to the bottom of the cup. Again, you never want to use your orbital on these edges. I have done it in a couple of tutorials, but I found out it just sets you up for like just failure, because the orbital, you don't have as much control, and around those edges you can really sand off the paint and glitter. So just stick with your sanding block. It's just more foolproof. And again, like, I really didn't need to do this much sanding. I just did because I wanted a tumbler as smooth as a baby's bottom for the final product. Once all the sanding was done, I grabbed my 120 grit flap wheel and my Dremel. Again, any rotary tool would work. And I am just going to take my time and expose a little bit of stainless steel at the top of the cup. This step is so important because it allows your final layers of epoxy to really adhere well, and it prevents liquids from getting in behind your design elements and just coming off. So I go around the top with my Dremel, and then I come in with my sanding block just to smooth out that edge so that if you do drink out of the top of it, it doesn't feel weird on your lips or just like create any pokey bits. Once that's done, it is time to start with the different brush strokes. After all the sanding was done, I did end up going with a coat of epoxy, just like a super thin one, just to make sure that I had a nice and shiny surface, because I tried it on a sanded surface doing the brush strokes and it just did not come out the way I wanted to. So I added a coat of epoxy, and then you can kind of see there where I tried before, and it just didn't come out right. But I'm using Miss Lillian's bright white no wax chalk paint, and just about 1.5 inch stiff bristle brush. And I'm just getting the slightest bit of paint on the brush and just kind of coming around and making these brush stroke patterns that you see here. Don't worry, there's no right or wrong to doing this. Just kind of have fun and just go up and down in a straight pattern. You can see here that if you mess up, and since we have that fresh coat of epoxy underneath it, it just wipes right off. You could even let it fully dry and then come in with some alcohol on a paper towel and it would come right off. But just go make your way around the cup, adding just like the littlest bit of paint just to get that pattern. And then we're gonna let that dry and come in with a second coat. So we get that really vibrant, bright white that kind of plays off or is like in contrast to the bright colors that we have in the background. I let that first coat dry for about 15 minutes, and then I just came in for the second coat, just following the pattern that we had laid out previously. I didn't try and match it perfectly because I liked some of that faded brush strokes in the background. So I'm kind of following the pattern that we laid down before, but not living by it, just to kind of get that dimensional look of the paint, like the paintbrush and the paint strokes that you see there. So again, just following the exact same pattern, laying down the paint the way I liked it, and then just kind of not stopping until I was happy. If you're using a different acrylic paint, don't feel bad if you have to do a third coat just to get the coverage that you want. But this white stripe around the middle is going to be the groundwork for our vinyl, our sprinkled glitter that's coming up. So just make sure that you're happy with the coverage and then move on to the next steps. After the paint was fully dry, I added a thin coat of epoxy to this cup, and that's why it's turning here. And then I grabbed Kaleidoscope from Boujie Glitter Boutique, and I am just sprinkling it into this white section of the tumbler. So here, I'm sorry you're seeing a super close up of my freckle hand, but I am just taking just a little bit out of the container and just sprinkling it pretty high. I'm starting and focusing on the center of the cup first, and then kind of moving my hand around just to add like little bits of sparkle in the pattern that I want. Once that's done, I let that fully cure, add another coat of epoxy over the top of it to make it smooth, and now it's time for decals. I actually used 2 different SVGs for the 2 cups that we made. The one that you're seeing here, it says have courage and be kind, and I just used Cricut's holographic pink/orange for the first offset, so like the base layer. Then I came in with Cricut's textured vinyl that you see here for the middle offset, and then I just used Oracal's 651 for the white that you see here. I did switch it up a little bit with the other decal by changing out the silver and the holographic just to see which one came out better. I think they're about the same. I like them both, but I'm just using my Cricut mat to kind of layer my vinyl and keep everything straight and in place, because I was tired of using so much painter's tape, and it just helps me to align everything. And I'm sorry you're seeing a close-up of the top of my head, but I'm just lining everything up to get the decal the way I want it, and then I will apply it to the tumbler. And real quick, the reason why I layer here instead of on the tumbler is because when you're working with a rounded surface, the vinyl can become unaligned and it will cause it to stretch, and it won't stretch all in the same way. So this is just a little trick that I use. I grabbed my CamiPaige cup cradle, and please ignore my ratchet nails in this part of the tutorial. A lot of them broke off and I hadn't had a chance to get them fixed yet. But I am just going to peel the backing off of my decal. You can see there that it's giving me all kinds of trouble. But then I am just going to place it in the center of the cup and get this applied to the tumbler as is. I know you guys have seen me do this a bunch, so I'm just leaving this in here in case you want to see how I do it. But I like to apply the center of the decal first and then roll out the rest of the vinyl. This prevents bubbles and it allows you to get some really great adhesion of that vinyl onto your tumbler. Take your time in removing the transfer tape, because I, for some reason, have the stickiest transfer tape on the face of the planet, and it moves my vinyl when you've got like these kind of scripty fonts. So just take your time, and just, if anything moves, use your like X-Acto knife and put it back into place. Like always, I am going to seal my vinyl first. So this is Quick Coat from CC DIY. This is a really great sealer that I use all the time. And what this does is it allows me to really make sure that my vinyl does not move when I go into my final layers of epoxy. And also, because I am sealing this, I need less epoxy to cover that whole decal. So I highly recommend this stuff. I just apply it using a gloved finger, let it dry for about 45 minutes, and then I gave it 2 coats of epoxy, and this baby was done. And there they are. I absolutely love how these turned out. I thought they were so cute. I hope this tutorial inspires you, and I can't wait to see what you create. If you have any questions about any of the steps or information, please feel free to reach out. I will be more than happy to help. As always, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you like this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see future videos. You can also ring the bell so you're notified of all future cup making goodies. Thank you again. I love you guys. Bye.